Greetings and welcome, I'm Ash, and today I would like to give you my thoughts on the early access version of Battlerite. But first, a little story. Back in the ancient times of 2011, my main multiplayer obsession was Bloodline Champions, a game so well designed I felt I could never truly master it. All of the characters were almost perfectly balanced amongst each other, pretty much every team composition worked as long as you played with its strengths in mind, and to top it all off, not a single element of gameplay was in the hands of random chance. Alas, due to publisher greed and a couple of misguided patches, Bloodline Champions abruptly transformed into something different. Something I and many others simply couldn't enjoy any longer, and so with a great deal of sorrow I ended up leaving a game I spent a good 100 hours with. While Bloodline Champions still remains a mere shadow of its former self, I'm glad to say that there is hope on the horizon, as Battlerite is about as close as you can get to the original Bloodline Champions without wearing its skin as some sort of freaky mask. It features the same cast of diverse characters, the same intricate balance, the same frantic combat, and most importantly, a pretty damn good matchmaking system that actually managed to consistently pair me with equally skilled players. Battlerite is currently in early access, however, so while all of the gameplay mechanics are present and accounted for, there are still some missing features and a definite lack of polish. With that in mind, allow me to show you what exactly Battlerite does right and what still needs to be improved. First things first, what in the world is Battlerite anyway? Well, the best way to describe it would be to say that it's what World of Warcraft's Arena would turn into if the entire game was focused around PvP and PvP alone. Or in other words, Battlerite is a PvP arena brawler hybrid that has two teams face off against each other across numerous skirmishes. There is no auto-aim to rely on, no god of randomness to pray to, it is just you and your team against the enemy in a battle of pure skill. It all comes down to mastering your favorite characters, learning how to dodge the enemy attacks while attempting to land your own, and ensuring that you use your abilities in the best way possible, as any mistake you make is liable to be punished by death. It's brutal, it's challenging, and as the quickly increasing hours on my Steam account confirm, it is all pretty good fun. Given that Battlerite is a purely PvP game, there is one element of gameplay that takes priority above all else: the balance. Since Battlerite released only a couple of days ago, I won't go as far as to say that I've managed to figure out the entire metagame, but from everything I've seen so far, there are no characters that stand out as either overpowered or completely useless. There are some characters that appear to be weak on first glance, mostly because their skill floor is placed so incredibly high, but in the hands of good players, even they can be absolute monstrosities. This to me is a telltale sign of a healthy balance. None of this should come as much of a surprise to Bloodline Champion veterans, given that Battlerite had an exceptional role model to base all of its balance on. However, while Battlerite definitely takes most of its hero design from Bloodline Champions, there are some subtle but incredibly significant changes to nearly all of the heroes. For example, the Ranid Assassin, or Croak as he likes to call himself these days, has lost a significant amount of his burst damage in exchange for even better mobility. Since I've spent well over 100 hours playing the Ranid Assassin, this instantly felt weird and wrong to me, but after poisoning people with Croak for a couple of hours, I've come to realize how enjoyable these changes have ended up being. Instead of having to constantly walk out of the fight in order to deal with the clunky jump mechanics, I am now able to more reliably weave in and out of combat, spread toxin with precision strikes, and only commit to the kill when the odds are stacked in my favor. Just like a true voodoo midget assassin would. And if that's not enough changes for you, Battlerite also features a brand new card system that lets you choose one out of 3 predetermined ability enhancements before each round begins. Now, before you run away screaming, it would probably be useful to know that these cards, or Battlerites as they're called, are completely predetermined and aren't being sold for any type of currency, real or not. They are simply there to give you a chance to adjust your tactics depending on your opposition. I must admit, I expected this system to be pretty damn useless since World of Warcraft has long since taught me that the one choice always tends to dominate over all others, but thankfully this was not the case. There are obviously some Battlerites you will always choose if you're looking to dish out the biggest damage numbers, but they are often counterbalanced by defensive or utility Battlerites, things you need in order to live long enough to actually do that sort of damage. So if you're in a group with no healers, it would probably be prudent to pick up a couple of Battlerites that either help you survive longer or at the very least burst down the enemy even harder. If that plan ends up failing horribly and you realize that your opponents are constantly running away from you, why not take a Battlerite that helps out with mobility next? These sort of adjustments mid-match might feel a bit imbalanced, but you're always able to see what your opponents have chosen, and as such can easily modify your own plans to counter theirs. While I'm still not sure if all of this is going to create any balance issues in the future, right now I couldn't be happier with how the Battlerites have been implemented. The one thing I'm a bit displeased with are the arenas, and it's not because they're poorly balanced, but rather quite the opposite. Every single arena consists of the same bends and turns, corners to juke the enemy in and hopefully lead them into traps, as well as a couple of health ability power-ups that spawn near the middle. All of this is perfectly fine as far as the balance is concerned, but the problem is that all of the arenas feel exactly the same to me. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting to see arenas that suddenly kill players for no reason, but some sort of extra mechanic would have been interesting. Instead of having nearly every arena be exactly the same, my ideal version of Battlerite would have each one require slightly different tactics. This could potentially be done by reshaping the terrain in order to create unique obstacles, placing a bunch of power-ups in death trap locations so the battles get a certain ebb and flow to them, and things like that. The current arenas are certainly not bad. After all, they provide for a perfectly symmetrical and balanced experience, so they're already quite high up on the rankings, but I'd just like to see them have a bit more personality. While besting your opponents in honorable combat is certainly an important part of any PvP game, it is not the most important one. What really, truly matters is that you look damn good while doing so, and it is here that Battlerite still needs a lot of work. There are plenty of extra skins and weapon appearances to unlock, so you would think that this isn't going to be too much of a problem, but the honest truth is, they're all just kinda plain old boring. No matter which character you select, all of their skins are simple recolors that might look great in the preview screen, but are mostly invisible in the heat of battle. Since you're expected to unlock these either through hours upon hours of gameplay or through the mighty swing of the credit card, it is a serious issue to have the skins be so low-key. I can certainly understand the developer's desire to keep the skins tame so that each character is easily distinguishable in the middle of combat, but there surely must be some sort of middle ground that can satisfy both sides. And speaking of microtransactions, it's probably high time I've mentioned that Battlerite is going to be a free-to-play game once it finally releases. This doesn't mean your early access purchase is worthless, however, as it does bring with it one amazing benefit: the ability to play all current and future heroes without the need to unlock them first. In my eyes, this is the best possible system for a free-to-play game, though I might be slightly biased here given how much I despise any competitive game that locks away heroes behind expensive purchases. Whether this is something you agree with or not, it is still extremely good to have such an option available, even if it is most likely going away with the end of early access. Battlerite has decided to undertake the rather difficult task of emulating Bloodline Champions, and much to my surprise, it has managed to not only replicate the gameplay, but also improve it through a variety of small tweaks. Combat is fast-paced and most definitely enjoyable, the characters are just as deep and complex as they ever were, and to top it all off, early access isn't being used in order to peddle a half-finished product given that Battlerite feels nearly done outside of its menus. If you're a fan of Bloodline Champions, or if you enjoy games with a heavy focus on teamwork and personal skill, then I do believe you might enjoy Battlerite. Just make sure you're prepared to deal with a couple of bugs and missing features, as Battlerite has only recently entered early access. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this, or even if you didn't, please do let me know. And if you would like to see more, you can either subscribe here, or you can check out the website link down below. That one tends to be updated far more frequently. With all of that said, I hope you guys have a nice day, and I will see you soon. See ya!